What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting they're possibilities for you to consider, in which you can then come up with your own logical conclusions. Welcome out, everyone, all of you great decoders around the world, wherever you may be, both male and female. My name is Logan, and this is Decode Your Reality, and today we're going to be doing a how-to decode. My how-to series. This will be how to decode using the primes. Prime numbers, prime numerology, so prime number, prime numbers, using the Prime Cipher, and then getting into primes themselves. And, just what are primes? What do they mean? If you're not sure, well, I have a very special treat for you. So before I start my presentation, I have a very short video, just a few minutes long, on what prime numbers are through the Khan Academy. I've grabbed it from it's a free, discourse on what prime numbers mean. I'm going to start it here. And those of you that already know what prime numbers are and you don't want to watch this, you can just look down at the description of this video and I will have the timestamp showing where the presentation actually starts, and you can just skip that part of the video. But those of you that just want to get a refresher on what the primes mean, because they're very special numbers, this will be for you. So I'll catch you back here just a little bit. Here is Khan Academy on what prime numbers mean.
In this video, I want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a prime number. And what you'll see in this video, or what you'll hopefully see in this video, is it's a pretty straightforward concept, but as you progress through your mathematical careers, you'll see that there's actually fairly sophisticated concepts that can be built on top of the idea of a prime number. And that includes the idea of cryptography, and maybe some of the encryption that your computer uses right now could be based on prime numbers. If you don't know what encryption means, don't have to worry about it right now. Just need to know that prime numbers are pretty important. So I'll give you a definition, and the definition might be a little confusing, but when we see it with examples, it should hopefully be pretty straightforward. So a number is prime if it is a natural number, and a natural number, once again, just as an example, these are like the numbers 1, 2, 3. So essentially the counting numbers starting at 1, or you could say the positive integers. It is a natural number divisible by exactly two numbers, or two other natural numbers. Actually, I shouldn't say two other, I should say two natural numbers. So it's not two other natural numbers, divisible by exactly two natural numbers. One of those numbers is itself, and the other one is 1. Those are the two numbers that it is divisible by, and that's why I didn't want to say exactly two other natural numbers, because one of the numbers is itself. And if this doesn't make sense for you, let's just do some examples here and figure out if numbers are prime or not. So let's start with the smallest natural number, the number 1. So you might say, look, 1 is divisible by 1, and it is divisible by itself. You might say, hey, 1 is a prime number. But remember, part of our definition, it needs to be divisible by exactly two natural numbers. 1 is divisible by only one natural number, only by 1. So 1, although it might be a little counterintuitive, is not prime. Let's move on to 2. So 2 is divisible by 1 and by 2, and not by any other natural numbers. So it seems to make our constraint. It has two, it's divisible by exactly two natural numbers, itself, that's 2 right there, and 1. So 2 is prime. And I'll circle the prime numbers. I'll circle them. Well, actually, let me do it in a different color since I already used that color for the... Well, I'll just circle them. I'll circle the numbers that are prime. Now let's 3. And 2 is interesting because it is the only even number that is prime. If you think about it, any other even number is also going to be divisible by 2, above and beyond 1 and itself, so it won't be prime. We'll think about that more in future videos. Let's try out 3. Well, 3 is definitely divisible by 1 and 3, and it's really not divisible by anything in between. It's not divisible by 2, so 3 is also a prime number. Let's try 4, and I'll switch to another color here. Let's try 4. Well, 4 is definitely divisible by 1 and 4, but it's also divisible by 2. 2 times 2 is 4. It's also divisible by 2. So it actually has, it's divisible by 3 natural numbers, 1, 2, and 4. So it does not meet our constraint for being prime. Let's try out 5. So 5 is definitely divisible by 1. It's not divisible by 2. It's not divisible by 3. It's not divisible by 4. Exactly divisible by 4. You could divide them into it, but you would get a remainder. But it is exactly divisible by 5, obviously. So once again, it's divisible by exactly 2 natural numbers, 1 and 5. So once again, 5 is prime.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get started with this presentation. Obviously, you have now a little bit of the basic fundamentals of what a prime number is, how special they are. They're very powerful standalone numbers. So you have the composite numbers, which are not primes, and then you have the prime numbers themselves. And you could decode using the composite numbers as well, but prime numbers are very special, and we're going to start breaking all this stuff down. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start with this graphic right here showing, an old style push button payphone and the numbers, of course, on the dial pad, making up Saturn's magic square. But, what's really kind of interesting about the dial pad and the numbers being on there, those of you that use the keypad cipher, is the 0, right? And what is the 0? It's the O, the donut, but it's the operator, the OPER. And it starts off with this, the operator. And of course, as fate would have it, this was like one of the last slides that I threw in because I was trying to find kind of an introduction, and this was like very last minute, but of course, as fate would have it, here we are. So what's really special about this whole entire graphic here is that, back in the day, before we had cell phones, we had operators, and they would connect people to businesses, or people to the police department, or whatever. And, you would call them and they would connect to, they would kind of like be the middlemen, the operator. So what's the operator got to do with this reality? Does it have anything to do with the fundamentals of how it is to be a human being? Notice that the word operator is a 353, and that is a prime number. How about that? Bam! Just starting right off, it's a prime number. Get excited, folks, because this one's going to be a great deal of fun, this presentation. What about this 71? Why is it so special? Well, it links to this big word on the world stage that so many people use on the day-to-day. Pray to it, announce it, say it, use it, claim it. This is kind of the title of all titles, right? I mean, if we really want to get serious about how our vocabulary is and our language, in the English that is, and keep in mind the English language is the most spoken language in the entire world. Not saying the other ones don't have merit, of course they do. But since this is kind of the most popular language, the most spoken language, it has a lot of merit, it has a lot of say. And this God is a very important word that a lot of people use, and there it is. There's the connection, 71 in the primes. And is God just like the operator connecting you? And would it be another God? Would it be another deity connecting you to something else? So if you think about this, like, imagine that God is the operator, and it's all about, this is about communication now. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. What about the number 71? Well, yeah, absolutely. Is it a prime number? Bam! Of course it is. As I have been showing, as many of you great decoders have been showing, 71 is the 20th prime number. And what is 20? Well, of course, it's linked to duality, but let's take a look at what the tarot has to say to get some pictures, because we think in pictures. And I thought this was very interesting. We bring the tarot into this. The 71st card in the deck, if you're using the Fool as card 0 and 22, is the 7 of Pentacles. And then, of course, the 20th card in the Major Arcana is the Judgment card. Now, how I got that is, here's the spread I'm using. This is using, the Fool as 0 and 22. You can take it out and it'll give you a different variation. Okay? But the 20th card being tied to the 71 and being the prime of that. And then all the way down here to card 71, it's the 7 of Pentacles. Okay, so that's what I'm using right there. But what's really interesting about the tarot in this representation of the God is that this card is all about observing and analyzing before making a decision. So if you take what I just said with this card and you look at this one and what the tarot has to say about the Judgment, and this is going to, of course, be tied into Jewish mysticism, excuse me. Wow, I said that wrong. And then, of course, Christianity and theology as a whole. That's what kind of these people were all kind of wrapped around. And Judgment being the 20th card. And so think about just with this right here, with the God at the 71st prime numerology being the 20th prime number itself, and this being the card of analyzation. Like, this character swept all this stuff up in front of him, like he did a whole bunch of work, and now he's looking over what he swept up and he's trying to figure out, what am I going to throw away and what am I going to keep? And then you bring this card in and the whole aspect of theology and being judged for your actions, and then you get analyzed by your judgments. It's really interesting what the tarot has to say about this, tying it to numerology and pure mathematics. Let's keep going. What about alchemy now? Alchemy, one of my favorites. The elements, were made up of a lot of these elements, like stardust or stars. So these have their say in it as well, and we can connect them to numerology and mathematics. And here we go, we get some more theology, because this element right here, the 71st, called lutetium, is of course tied, if you've been paying attention, tied to Lucifer and Lucy in the sky with diamonds. And then you can get into Sophia and Yaldabaoth and the Gnostic aspects of what they claim to be the God. But I mean, Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages, I'm not saying he's the authoritative voice or the expression of what this means, but he says Lucifer's numbers are 741. They're right there inside the weight or atomic mass of lutetium. And it starts off with the letters Lu, as in Lucifer. So it's really interesting. Now you bring in the light bringer here. And, what would the light bringer do? Well, you go right back here to the operator, because it's right there. And what does the operator do? The operator is connecting one thing to the next. What does light do? The light has a source, and then it shines, and then it lands on an object. And you have the aspects of the light bringer, bringing you the game, bringing you the game of life. The operator tied to Lucifer, because it's tied to lutetium. And then what about the 20 in alchemy? It's the element calcium, and its average weight is 40.078. 40 is going to go to zirconium and being tied to death and regeneration. So that's what this reality is. And it's going to be tied to our bones. 99% of all of the calcium in our bones is found in our 99% of all the calcium in our bodies is found in our bones and teeth. So how about that? So what does this mean? This to me is light slowing down into physical matter and becoming an avatar and having a skeleton and the bones. You can count up all the bones. All this stuff has merit. All this is written into the script, into the game of life. And then it comes into being a battery. We are batteries. As I have said, this game of life is a battery. We're cells in the battery. If you want to kind of go fractals down, just like batteries have cells, you have trillions of cells in your body. We are cells. We feed the battery called life. And when you take 71 and you add it to the 20, this is one way you can do the primes now, ladies and gentlemen. You can take the number, and if it's a prime, you can add these two up, and you'll get a total. And that's another way to observe this reality. So I knew that battery was 91 using the English. You're not going to see me use too much of other ciphers, but there's a few sprinkled in here, trying to keep it directed to the primes. But you know, the number 91 itself, I mean, these are the anode and the cathode. Everything sandwiched in between, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 would essentially be the midway points between the 1 and the 9. So this would represent the battery. And how very fitting. Battery in Chaldean is a 19, but in the primes, it's a 316. So when you take the 2 protons of lutetium and calcium and add it up, you get 91, and we know it's a battery, and it's 316 in the primes. And what's so very interesting about this is that right here to the right-hand side is one of the spelling translations of Jesus. This is the actual translation all the way back to the Hebrew that the Society of Jesus uses, which is IESU in the Latinized version of it. Now, the Society of Jesus are huge proponents of the Jesus Christ character. Massively huge. They actually defend it. And just like that, using the original Hebrew spelling, what the Society of Jesus goes by, there's the 316. So now we have a connection between Jesus and Lucifer. Now, are they one and the same? Is God just Jesus and Lucifer, or is Jesus and Lucifer just the same entity? Because Lucifer being the light bringer, Jesus being the light of the world? Well, you got to make that decision. But when you say the God and through the primes, it's going to give you the 71 and again, that operator. Even in the Matrix, when they called in to get out of the Matrix, they called the operator. And then they had to go to the phone and get him out of there. So this operator right here is pretty damn important if you follow the Matrix series. And it's tied to the 71 and Lucifer being the light bringer to make the game happen. The midway point, perhaps. And is Jesus just Lucifer? I mean, this is just one spelling, but there are various, but it doesn't matter. You're going to find it in the same context, just in a different context. But let's keep going. So how about if we do the spellings of lutetium and calcium from the original, where they came from, and they're Latin, of course. Lutetium is lutetia, and calcium is calx. And I'm getting that from the Royal Society of Chemistry. Here's calcium right here. You just click on that, and you're going to get the name being derived from calx, which means lime, and lime is lime colored, which is going to get into the game of life, and I'm going to be showing that. But this is a 421. 421, and bam, there it is. Is 421 a prime? Abso-freaking-lutely. As I showed right here, prime number is 421. Which is really interesting because so is this. You see? And again, are they sitting down with the prime ciphers and naming their city after the prime cipher? You have to go through all of them, folks. There's going to be truth in all of them, trust me. But the prime number is a 421. And it just so happens to be the 82nd prime. And what is 82? Well, it's tied to Prison Planet if you've been paying attention. But it's also tied, we go to Alchemy again, showing the example, it's tied to lead. Right here. It's tied to lead. And remember the loop, 19, 37, 46. If you've been paying attention, it's 19 and 20, 46 and 47, and 37 and 38. When you add all that up, you're going to get 207. And that's the loop that we may never get out, ladies and gentlemen. You may never get out of this game. You may just level up or level down, exchange avatars. We just never know. There's no way to prove any of this. But when we take lead, it's a 57. 57. So what about the 57? Since we're talking about lead. Well, 269 is the 57th prime number. 57, bringing alchemy into it again. There's the element called to lie hidden, and it's lanthanum. And of course, the weight of lanthanum, 138. There's, if you've been following Jason from Archaics, he's big on that 138. It's tied to the phoenix rising. So does the phoenix have anything to do with light? Yes, it does. It has to. A lot of people think the phoenix is the sun, or maybe giving birth to another son, and we all have a hand in it. But there's a big connection right there. And what about this 269? Tied to lead. I mean, it's lead to gold right down here. And I mean, if we're talking about the phoenix rising, lead goes to gold. The lead would go to gold. And then what's gold tied to? The sun. The sun. And then we go to this title right here. I told you we'd be getting into another spelling of Yeshua. Here's Yeshua, which the majority of people that I know that are into theology, this is what they go by. Well, through the primes, through the original Hebrew, it's going to be 53, which is tied to the I am, but it's the 269 through the primes, which means it's leading to lead to gold. And this, to me right here, is undeniable at this point, and summarizing everything I've been saying for a very long time now, and many of you as well. We are the Christ. You're the devil and you're the Christ character. You're the ego and the spirit. We're combining both of these together. You are the yin, you are the yang. So this is absolute to me right here. You are the Christ. We are the Christ. And the great awakening, the second coming, is realizing that, and then some, realizing that you're in a game. But here's some more information on Yeshua and the 269 being tied to lead and the 57 and lanthanum. It's tied to this element right here called hessium, element number 108. And this is the icon the Royal Society of Chemistry uses, because this is the coat of arms for the great state of Hesse in Germany. It's a dragon, folks. The great dragon. What is the great dragon? Well, you're going to get into Michael and the dragon, Michael fighting the dragon. And the great dragon is electromagnetism. It's light. It's light right here. And then we keep going right here. We bring Yeshua to the top, 269. We connect it to hessium, 269. And then we actually grab the title of where hessium got its name from, and it's the great state of Hesse in Germany, which is 175 in the primes. And then we just end up going right back to lutetium, because this 71st element, lutetium, is 174.941, but in science, this is isotope 175. They're going to round up. That's why these numbers bleed. They bleed forwards and backwards. So it'll bleed down to the 173, 172, but there it is. To me, undeniable here. So Yeshua tied to Lucifer. And then you get the great dragon, and Michael fought the dragon and all that stuff. And it's electromagnetism. A big part of this is that's what this is all about, which is tied to light, which is what the game's all about. The light bringer, the light of the world. It's kind of looking that way. They're one and the same characters, right? They're interchangeable here. And there we go. To end this part of it off, it's light. Light is 167. Of course, 167 is a prime number. It's the 39th prime number. And then you go right back to the original spelling of where Lucifer came into play from the Old Testament, Isaiah 14 verses 12, which is based in Judaism. And it's Halil, or hell, as I like to say. 75 or 39 or 12, but it's going to reduce down to the 3. 3 is going to be tied to Earth and Pi, but it's the 39 going to be tied to Yttrium and the number 88. But you could see that, you know, the light bringers is definitely showing its roots here and bringing in the original Hebrew spelling and the 39. I mean, this is undeniable here, ladies and gentlemen. And this prime cipher is absolutely magical. I had so much fun decoding this. This is becoming a favorite of mine. I mean, Chaldean is just so beautiful, but this one's pretty damn amazing. So that leads into the next topic now. We're going to get into some theology using the primes. So typing your word into the prime cipher, it's 277, Holy Bible. Think about this right here is, you know, the story of the fallen angels. How many of them were there? 200. And then 77 is tied to the element iridium, which is tied to Iris, which we're going to be getting into, which is tied to you and I. It's tied to you and I because, you see, this is 277. Bam! It's a prime number. It's the 59th prime number. So what does the Bible mean? It's tied to the game of life. I mean, this is Chaldean. I'm going to show you the primes, but I just want to remind all of you, I built my base on Chaldean for so many years without ever really kind of deviating away from it. And this is what it's really kind of paying off for me and the rewards I'm getting to be able to connect these dots like this. So the 277, 59th prime number, what is the Bible tied to? The game of life. It's not the only text, by the way. You have the Vedas and you have the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and you can get into all these other ones. They all are going to be tied together in some way, some shape, or form. But this is a pretty big one. And then, the Holy Bible came from the Greek words, the books, or the Biblia. You can go research the stuff yourself. This is from the Greek original. This is where the Holy Bible came from, the origination of it, or one of them anyway. And there's the connector again in the original Greek, 59. You see? So we have the connecting points here that are undeniable with using mathematics as a bridge. The prime cipher and the Greek cipher, the prime cipher and the Chaldean cipher. Kind of undeniable here. The game of life is tied to the Bible. And then we bring alchemy into this. And what a gem this has been, man. I'm telling you, the alchemical elements, and this doesn't disappoint once again, because the 59th element tied to the 277, found from the words Holy Bible and the primes, is tied to the element praseodymium, which means the two twins. This is going to have an average weight of 140, which is going to be the 141st isotope, but this is the most abundant. This is going to be pi right here. So what is this telling us? The game of life, which is right here, 59, tied to the Bible, is tied to pi, the 141. It's going to be tied to Yaldabaoth and everything I've been showing with my bloodline decoded and scripted reality and all these. And this is the icon the Royal Society of Chemistry uses for this praseodymium. It's the two, and this is the prison bars. Right here, this is the prison bars. This is 2 in Roman numerals. 2, how many books, how many testaments in the Bible? 2. You see? This is the Old Testament and the New Testament. And they're clamped together. And the pi symbol's there as well. I mean, if you just take the bottom half off, it's pi, and there's pi right there in the atomic mass of this element, praseodymium. 59. This is just like jaw on the floor, undeniable stuff right here. And of course, the lime green is going to be tied to the light that comes into our eyes, the very first color that we see. It's going to be tied to Gemini, the two twins, which represent the two testaments in the Bible. It's pretty simple to see, ladies and gentlemen. It's pretty simple to see. And then we get to the primes and what the game of life means through the prime cipher itself. We get the 3, 1, 6. And what is the 316? Well, it's tied to Jesus, as I showed earlier. It's tied to Jesus and Lucifer. So are Jesus and Lucifer just the two twins that come down here and become man or woman? Is it just the ego and the spirit playing the game of life? I mean, again, Society of Jesus, this is what the spelling they use. And any of you say, oh, you can't use that one. No, that's not the correct one. But you don't understand how this reality works if that's where you're at. If that's where your mindset's at. You don't understand the game yet. So keep studying. And I'm very confident in saying that because of the levels, how deep I go, how many other deep decoders go, and we feed off each other. You got to go this deep, folks. You got to use alchemy. You got to use original spellings with the words and where they came from. You got to use the primes. You can't just connect the 4 base ciphers and think you got to figure it out. It's not the way it works. I know some of you don't want to believe that. That's fine. Then maybe you can unsubscribe from this channel. You don't really want to learn bad enough. You want to just decode Maya and the Great Illusion. And then it leads to praseodymium, because praseodymium, it comes from the 2 Greek words right here called praseos didymus, which means the 2 twins, which is why you have the Roman numeral 2, which leads to the yin yang. I mean, there's the 609, there's the 69 right there. That's why I brought the yin yang in here. I mean, what do you got here? Yin yang. It's just not in a circle. So how about that? So the Holy Bible means the game of life. It means the 2 twins. It means Jesus and Lucifer, as far as I'm concerned. And it means the yin yang, and you have the sun and the moon, you have night, and you have daytime, day and night, hot and cold, up and down, left and right. It's duality, folks. We're in duality, which is why the Bible has 2 testaments. That's why it has that. And then we just keep going and we realize that, we're just little actors down here. How much free will do we have? Do we have any? Well, that's going to be up to you to make a decision on. But 59 is also a prime number. We just keep going. This is what you want to do with these primes. Once you find a number that's a prime, you want to try to go down the ladder, go a fractal down and see if it's a prime number. Go down as far as you can go. Well, 59, as I showed in my scripted reality, tied to the actor, it's the 17th prime. And Chaldean, I know I'm going to keep it in the primes. I'm going to show you the primes, but the actor's the 17. The actor's the 17 is also a prime number. It's the 7th prime number. And then the 7th prime, 7 is the 4th prime number. And that's it. After that, and 4 means the cube. So you just keep going with this, and that's what you want to do. So we'll do a little exercise here with these primes. So if we start with 277, you're going to get the 59th prime tied to the game of life. Then you go to the 59. Whoops. Then you go to the 59, and it's the 17th prime number. What about the 17? Click on that. Yep, that's a prime number as well. And you just keep going. What about the 7? Yep, it's the 4th prime number. And what about the number 4? Nope, it's a composite number. So it stops there. And what is 4? The cube, the square, the box, the cross that we live inside of. The magic square of Saturn running time. But that's how you kind of roll with these primes like this. If you want to really go deeper with the decodes that you're doing, just follow those primes down. And what about the word actor in the primes? Well, it's just more of what I've been showing and how beautiful this is. Actors 186, go right back to Alchemy again to get the bridge, and it's going to give us this element rhenium. And how special this one is because it's again tied to Lucifer. What is Lucifer called? The light bringer. And if you're new to this, you'll be like, well, okay, what does that mean? Well, folks, go research. Well, I'll just do that on the fly. So just here it is, 186. And we're talking about Lucifer, the light bringer. And then if you just go and open up a search box and you go light 186, you're going to get that light. Well, I guess you're not going to do it that way. But if you just do 000, there you go. The speed of light. Speed of light is 186,000 miles per second in a vacuum. Okay? And of course, it's tied to the Great Pyramid of Giza if you convert it into kilometers. So Lucifer's tied to the speed of light through the numerology of its original spelling and through the actor. So you see, folks, we are the Jesus and Lucifer character. Maybe they're just one and the same. Lucifer and Jesus are one and the same. They both say they're the light bringer, the light of the world. And it's all tied to theology here. And then, the star. We're all stars. This is the 17th card. What this means right here, folks, is we are light beings slowed down into physical matter, and we become a human, become an actor. And just how much free will do we have? Well, again, that's going to be up to you to make that decision. The little voice in your head, I say that owns you. It owns you. And your life is scripted. I stand in that. I have enough evidence to support it. But let's keep going here and get on to the next topic now. Okay, we having fun yet? Let's get into the next topic now. How about this right here through the primes? I am you. See, you don't need to use any other filler letters here. You can you can put the A in there, but you don't need it, because if I just put these letters up and say these letters to me, you're going to say, I am you. And that's the same as I am you. I am you. So there's really no variation here. Phonetically, it's the same. We just simplify it, and then we get it to be the 137. A lot of you should have bells going off. Like, that's the 33rd prime number. That's right, tied to the Christ. We are the Christ, folks. That's the Great Awakening, realizing that. Realizing you're in a game, a scripted reality. So it's the I am, and then it's us, the you. And it's 73. What is the 73? Would you probably wonder why I have the blood splatter here? Because it's tied to our blood. See, blood's pH, very case specific. It's around 7.3 to 7.4. Well, there's the 73. 74 tied to tungsten and the wolf, and feed the wolf, feed the game. So it's us. We are the you. 73. Tied to King Tantalum and that element being 180. That's a permutation of the 108, which I showed just a little bit ago at Hesium. But we keep going with this, and yeah, the 137 is the 33rd prime number, tied to the fine structure constant, mathematics, more mathematics. And of course, again, this completely tells me that, you know, it's the architect playing out the game by becoming us. You're following a script, it's controlling you either through the program, through the software that it was written, or remotely. And it's playing a game out, and we're the game. We're the experiment. Like the Truman Show. That's how I feel. Westworld. This summarizes it right here. Like nail in the coffin kind of information right here, as far as I'm concerned. I am you, tied to the 33. And then, you know, when you bring in the element for alchemy on this to get the bridge, well, it's barium. And how important has this element been in showing how this reality perhaps works? It's the 56 and the 137 as its average weight, barium. And when you look at this, the clue now is when you go to the Royal Society of Chemistry, okay? And you got to start looking at these clues. You go to this 56 element and you go to barium, and it has this picture right here. And when you go down to the uses and properties and you read about it, it says the image is based on X-ray radiographs of the human stomach and intestines in patients who have been given a barium meal. So in medicine, they give you a barium meal and you swallow it. And it goes down into the stomach so they can take an X-ray of your stomach and intestines. The stomach in this situation is going to be the belly of the beast. We're in the belly of the beast. That's what this means. This right here means the movie. And the movie means light, and light gets swallowed. It goes down into the hole, into the belly of the beast. And it's tied to the keys to the universe. When you say 56, it's 396. 396. Which I showed in my Dios Decoded, amongst other ones. If you haven't checked this one out, not many people have watched this. This was one of my favorites. Of course, Dios being God in Spanish. But there it was. I mean, I've shown this before, this one, but when you take I am, like the I am that I am, those two elements, and you add them up, you get 369. What Tesla was saying. And I mean, it's right there. So the I am you. It's the whatever is controlling this reality. It comes down here and plays out its own game. Becomes man or woman and an avatar. That's where you get the whole story of the fallen angels and the mating of the females. And I mean, if you're the architect and you create a game, wouldn't you come down and play your own game? Every single one of you would say yes. Of course you would. If you make a product, are you going to use your product? Of course you're going to use it. If you make potato chips, are you ever going to taste your potato chips? Of course you're going to taste them. If you're a creator of a cell phone, are you going to actually use the cell phone? Of course you will. If you make a car, do you think Henry Ford, do you think he ever drove a Ford? Of course he drove a Ford. It would be stupid to think otherwise. Whatever created this game comes down here at any time it wants and play out. So a lot of mythology talks about it. Comes down and this is where it's all. We're the theater of life, folks. Something's watching us. That's where I stand with this. And it's lights, camera, action. I mean, this is what in Hollywood is a fractal down, because when you watch the movie, it's not real, but you get emotionally involved in it. But they're following a script. They're following a screenplay. What do you think you're doing? You're following a script. That's why when you start to decode yourself through astrology and numerology, you're like, oh my God, that's totally me. How's that possible? Because you're following a script. We're in a movie, folks. Something's watching us. Don't know how to describe it other than that, but we're decoding. A lot of you great decoders are showing the same things. But the 56 in Chaldean, lights, camera, action. off of I am you. It's the I am coming down and becoming us. That's what this is saying right here. And then what about through the primes? Well, it's a 547. Is 547 a prime? You bet your bottom dollar it is. Not just any one, it's the 101st prime number. So I'm going to do the same thing we did with the when we went all the way down to the number 4. Go down and go down. 101 is the 26th prime number. What is 26? Get the bridge through alchemy? Well, it's iron. And what is in our blood, ladies and gentlemen? That's right. Without this element, you wouldn't be alive. Iron. It's essential. It's essential. If you don't have iron, you can get what's called anemia. People die from it. So I got the blood splatter here, meaning that this is what it means to be a human being. Imagine you're whatever, you're up in heaven, you're up in outer space, whatever, however it looks. And you're like, oh my God, that game of life, that looks pretty incredible. I think I want to go play that. Well, one of the requirements is you got to fill this form out and you got to check this off and da-da-da. You got to go through this whole screening process and you're going to feel aches and pains. You're going to feel suffering, and that's okay though. I want to go I want to go see what it feels like to have sex. I want to go see what it feels like to swim in the ocean. I don't know. I'm just kind of phrasing this whole thing, but that's just kind of how I see it with all these narrations here, all these layers that we're looking at here. And iron having an average weight of 55, which is going to be isotope 56. This is another one of its stable isotopes. What is 56? We go right back here. It's lights, camera, action. See, so we get it through the Chaldean, which is why I've been favoring it so much, but you get it through the primes by using the primes in mathematics. And these numbers and letters, these are all part of the script. The code, like when a coder writes code, he has to write it a specific way. This is all written a specific way. This is the source code. Man didn't code this, folks. Too many different moving parts. Man's just along for the ride. So what about iron? Well, it's, in Latin, it's the Fe, it's called ferrum. That's the Latinized spelling of it. 260. Well, you go right back. How many protons does iron have? 26. Drop that 0. There you go. Bam. And what about the spelling of iron itself? Well, it's going to go right back to Lucifer and the Christ. 174. Which is tied to lutetium. Tied to the operator. Tied to the Christ. Tied to Lucifer. The light of the world, the light bringer. And then what about lutetium? Well, it comes from this word, lutetia. On its own, it's a 288. What's another word that equals 288 in the same exact cipher? Keep your eye right here. It's the Greek spelling of Jesus. Converted into the English, but nonetheless, it's there, folks. You can't miss it now, okay? Lutetia, Lucifer, Lucy, Jesus. And, we are the Christ, folks. You are, that's why I say, be the best little devil you can be. You can't help it. We're sinners down here. That's the joke. Don't take life so seriously. Be the best little devil you can be, meaning be a good person. Be more service to others. If there is a way to win the game, I think you got to check those things off the box. But these, to me, are undeniable in playing the game of life, lights, camera, action. And so, I've come to this. Are we just in a scripted reality? I think so. I've got a series now called Scripted Reality, breaking down real things in life. Maybe they're fake, maybe they're real, but these are events that really happen. MLK, go watch my Scripted Reality too. Did he really die? Did he get assassinated? Was it all just a big smoke and mirror show? I broke it all down. But it's this one right here. This was my favorite slide of my Scripted Reality, the very first one. This is off the movie Groundhog Day, that amazing movie. I gotta watch this movie again because I love it so much. Bill Murray wakes up in Pennsylvania in the same town over and over and over again, and they always show 5:59 on the alarm clock, and then bam, when it hits 6 a.m., then it's got the song I Got You, Babe by Sonny and Cher, and that whole song I Got You means I got you. You wake up, you're now under my domain. You're in the scripted reality. And this was a dead giveaway to me right here. For me, anyway. I feel like this is absolute. When he wakes up from his sleep and he realizes, oh shit, I'm in a scripted reality. That's why the reality keeps happening over and over again. And of course, they narrated it a different way. Interesting movie. But then it's also tied to this right here. So are we just characters in the game and we're just God? We're just light being slowed down into physical form, into matter, where spirit meets matter. And we become the Christ. We become the devil. We just got to have fun with this. We can't just like, oh, I'm not a devil. Of course you are, folks. You're a sinner, man. You just got to have fun with this, not take it so serious with the church is like hammer these stupid words. All right, let's get into the next topic now and go back to this right here. I just want to start with this. I'm going to get into some of this right here, but I want to start off with this right here again because I want to really focus on this number 26. So again, lights, camera, action, 547. You follow the primes down. 101 leads to the 26. 26 through alchemy is going to lead to iron. So this iron is what I wanted to highlight. So remember, this is talking about the architect coming down here and becoming part of the movie called The Game of Life. Okay, and we get into now the God of the Bible now, which is, you can tie it into Brahma and get into the Hinduism, which is the oldest religion. Doesn't matter which one you want to use. I'm just using the most popular because most people know this. A lot of people don't know the Upanishads and the Vedas and all that. Don't know why they wouldn't read them, but they don't read them. But 26 through the original spelling of the ancient Israelite God going into Judaism now, from the Old Testament, it's the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. And it's 26 in its original spelling now. It's tied to iron. And of course, if you read history, supposedly the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh came out in the Bronze and Iron Age. Is that when we had a reset? I don't know. Maybe it's his turn to be the boss. And I didn't catch this when I put out my scripted reality. Some of you did. Thank you for your comments. Many of you caught it. That this word right here means boss. And how I got this, and this is another way you can decode from, and I would encourage all of you to do it, is if you get a word in a foreign language, you want to convert that into the English and then you can convert it into other ciphers. So Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is a 10-5-6-5. Well, here are the letters in the English alphabet matching that up. See, Yod starts with the letter Y. But it's a 10, but not in the English, it's the letter J, and that's where you're going to get the New Age name called Jehovah. So the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is Jehovah in the New Age. Same thing. But the most authentic format is the 26, because that's where it came from, the origin of it. So that's why you have a match here. And I didn't know this, but some of you knew it, and this means the boss in Spanish, jefe. However you pronounce that. Still trying to work on my Spanish. And so I did it with the primes. And what do we get? 64. That's why in the background you get the chessboard there. See, that's why the chessboard's not evil. That's why when people say, oh, it's Masonic. Folks, I hope you're past that point. Okay? That's why the Masons use the Bible, because the God of the Bible is the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, which is just going to be Yaldabaoth, which is just going to be Jesus and Lucifer and Brahma and Vishnu and all the other. That's all going to be one and the same, just packaged differently. Which one do you want it? What do you want to call it? But this, 64 squares in the chessboard, 64 possible codons in our DNA. It's the architect coming down and becoming man. And this 64 is going to be tied to this element right here called gadolinium. And gadolinium is the television screen. When you go look at it in the Royal Society of Chemistry, those of you that are new, here it is. There's the icon they use. You're on television. They used to use it to make television screens, right? You go to the uses and properties, right here. These are the little clues to tell you that you're inside of a movie. 64 squares on a chessboard, and it is the GD element. I mean, you can't get any more obvious than that. And it's 157. Remember, lead's 57. It's the 157. Whoops. And it goes to boss. So again, I didn't catch this. Great shout out to all of you that caught it. Spanish, jefe means boss. And it's 184. So what about the 184? What does that mean? Well, then you go to alchemy once again, and you get this element right here. How big this one is. It's tungsten. The big W, otherwise known as, so I got the wolf here. Wolfram. Feed the wolf. There's that 183, the permutation of the 138. This is isotope 184 right here. They're going to round it up. But the big dead giveaway is the 74. What other element has 74 tied to it? I got my things all jacked up. Go right here, arsenic. And what is the protons of arsenic? 33. 33 with arsenic. So that's tied to arsenic and the big W, and the big W is tied to the sun. Go check out my Superstars Decoded. The big W. Buried under a big W. It's a mad, 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 mad world. Came out in 1959, The Game of Life. But anyway, what does tungsten have to say about all this? Well, 396, the keys to the universe. And you're going to go right back to this right here. 56, 396. Matching tungsten. From the boss. From Jefe. From the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh. From the 26. And from the lights, camera, action. All the way to the starting point of that. Television screen. We are on television, folks. And the boss runs it. The boss is tied to the wolf, and you can't help but feed it because you're following a script. Tungsten, they used to make filaments with tungsten for light bulbs. The light bulbs are a representation of the sun. It's a very good chance the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh is just the sun. And there's the 396 tied to tungsten. You see, you just got to follow you guys got to connect the dots. We go right back to the I am you. Yeah. So what this is saying is that you're the architect. The architect, according to this, is the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, which is going to be Lucifer and Jesus and all the other ones I mentioned. And it's the boss. And the boss is going to be tied to this, which is going to be the sun, which is going to be the wolf, and it's also going to be tied to the moon as well. Right there. So when we highlight this tungsten, I want to show you guys and gals another way to look at this when you decode. It's the isotopes themselves. It's a more deeper layers to show you how absolutely mathematically precise this whole reality is. Mankind just follows it. So this isotope 184, found from this boss, found from the Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh, found from the lights, camera, action. Here it is. I have it circled. The natural abundance of this 184, this isotope, it's the most. This one is the most. It's 30.64. What does 30 mean? How about demiurge? Demiurge is 30. What's 64? Well, you go back up here and 64 is the boss. See? These are little subtleties, but if you know what you're looking for, you can figure it out. It's the demiurge. So what is demiurge in the primes? 244. And we know what's 244 tied to? Well, in the primes, it's not a prime. Demiurge is not a prime. So this poses a challenge now. And this is where I feel that this is where you can get more layers of your decoding from. Because if you're led to numbers that are not primes, if you're led to a composite number, where do you go from here? Well, sure, you can find the 244 and what it's tied to through the primes. I mean, you can go here and you can look at 244 and you know it's not a prime, but you can click on the 1549 and you realize 1549 is the 244th prime number. And then what does this number mean? And you can look at the sine and cosine waves and, check out those numbers as well. All this stuff has merit. The square roots, they'll give you more layers and more layers and more layers. But this 244 itself is not a prime. It's a composite number. So where do we go from here? Well, I feel like you want to look at these two right here, the previous prime and the next prime. Now, the first prime number in mathematics is 2. Number 1 is not a prime. So does that mean that 2 owns the number 1? And so this leads me into this theory right here. This is just purely theoretical, what I'm proposing to all of you. But it's where you can read these composite numbers to figure this out. So I feel like this is a very good possibility. And of course, when you bring alchemy into this, yes, it leads into plutonium. Pluto, remember, Pluto is the god of the underworld, otherwise known as Hades. And Hades is related to Zeus, which is also related to Poseidon. And those three are supposedly the rulers of Earth at this very time through the Greek mythology. Pluto's the god of the what does the underworld mean? Well, again, I want to show you a theoretical position here in this methodology. So it's not a prime, it's a composite number. Here are the numbers that make up, that are underneath the guise of the 251. So the next prime number is the 251. This 244 is sandwiched in between 241 and 251. So 241 is going to be the 53rd prime number, which is the iodine and the I am. But then it's going to be 242, 243, and there's the 244, all the way up to perhaps the ruler of the 244. All these composite numbers are ruled over by the 251. Now it can go either way. It can be the 251 or it can be the 241. 241 all the way to 250. But I'm going to show you why this has merit here. So I hope you follow along here. Remember, 244 is a composite number, meaning that it's either under the guise or under the command of the 251st or the 241st prime number. In this case, I'm going to show you why this has merit right here. So if 251 is the ruler of the 244, well, then we can look at that. So here it is. 251 is the 54th prime number. And this is really important now. This is a pretty big deal. Tied to the demiurge. 54 is tied to Xenon. Remember, there's someone in my head, but it's not me. 131 in the Chaldean. It's the 54 and Xenon. So is Xenon the ruler of this 244? Or would it go down to the 241, and 241 is the 53rd prime, and it's going to be iodine, which is one half of the I am. And I was showing that earlier. But let me show you how much merit this has. Okay? Whoops. So I came out with a decode here on March 26 of 2021 called They Live. If you haven't seen this, please check it out. And this whole movie was highlighted upon this cable news station 54. It was a bunch of aliens or whatever they were, and it was about mankind being used. And you can't see them. But the whole premise was based on Cable 54, and at this cable news station, they were broadcasting a hypnotic trance to put you under as a human being. So you'll just obey and consume and pay attention to the Maya and the illusion. It was all tied to the spider web and this Xenon and Osmium and the Wizard of Oz. This movie right here. So it's tied to this Xenon, the 54 now. The hypnotic trance. Is this tying us to the hypnotic trance? And tied to the demiurge now. And of course tied to Pluto. And plutonium, it's tied to Shiva. Okay? So with that in mind, I want to break down Xenon. Now, if you need to stop and go back and revisit what I just said to get this, by all means do it. This is important, I'm telling you folks. So just, again, 251 is the 54th prime number. 244 is a composite number under the guise of the 251. It's in between the 241 and 251, in between the 53 and 54. But since 54 is so big in this world stage, it's everywhere. Highlighted on this movie saying we're in keeping you in a hypnotic trance. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. Remember that one with Pink Floyd, as I showed so many times? There's someone in my head, but it's not me. Is it the demiurge? Well, here it is. So if you take Xenon and you break it down through the primes in numerology, it's 233. And lo and behold, bam, there was the big clue. For me anyway. It's the 51st prime number. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And it was tied to this element right here called antimony. 51st element. Called stibium in Latin. But in the Royal Society of Chemistry, this is the icon they use, the Eye of Horus. If you cut your brain in half, this is what you're going to have, the all-seeing eye there, tied to the pineal gland. There's someone, I feel like this is the implant. There's someone in my head, and this is what it means right here. The antimony, it comes from the words anti-monos, which means not alone. So what this is referring to right here is that the voice in your head is the voice that runs you. That's how I see it. I know some of you are going to refute that. That's okay. Not going to twist anybody's arm. I'm just showing you what the code's showing. But this xenon from this 54, from the prime numbers, under the guise, or the 244 under the guise of the 251, from the demiurge, it's going to lead to this right here. Going and following the primes, 233. 233. The fallen angel story, 200, and then the 33 tied to the Christ. This is all making sense. So what about this, 233 and anti-monos and all? Let's break that down. So here it is from the Greek. It means not alone. 384. 384 is a composite number. It is not a prime number. So we're faced with the same dilemma that we were right here. The 244 not being a prime number. But I feel like it's under the guise of the 251, which is the 54th prime number. And then it's tied to antimony. So we go to the 389. What's the 389 tied to? 77th prime. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we end up at our eyeballs. And this eye, if you watch my pineal gland, the light comes in and it goes through and it ends up linking to the pineal gland. This is not an accident, and this is not me trying to stretch anything if you know what you're looking at here. When you're using these alchemical elements, iridium is the iris of your eye. It means the iris. Some of the Greek goddess called Iris. If you look at this, here it is. Iris was the goddess of the rainbow and the messenger. Remember the operator? Remember we talked about the operator? The messenger of the Olympian gods. Tied to the rainbow. What are we? We're humans. Humans slowed down into physical matter. And this is tied to the operator. There's your black sun, your little devils. This to me is undeniable. So the 389 to me rules the 384 by being the prime number there. And then showing it with the antimony and the 51 from Xenon, the voice in our head. So the voice in your head that runs you, that means not alone. Yeah, you're not alone. The voice in your head talking right now, that owns you. And then we observe this reality through our eyes, through this element, 77, iridium. And what's so fascinating, you can go study the damn flower right here. You can study the iris. I went and looked at this thing. I can break this whole thing down. And then you come down here, and if you're wondering where this shape came from, see, no one's trying to mock you folks, just people know what to do and what to use. You come down here and you're going to land at this symbol right there. See, no one's trying to screw anybody over. They're using it. They may not be telling you. Do you tell everybody what you do? But it's there because it's very powerful. It's tied to, obviously, the operator. It's tied to us being the middleman, so to speak, giving feedback through man. And it's the iris. From a simple little flower, folks. That's where we're at with this. It's tied to us, the eyes, and the iridium, 77. This to me is undeniable right here. And then you have what I feel to be the representation of the human being experience ruling over us. It's the zodiac wheel. I showed this in my Illumination Decoded. The zodiac wheel fits right over your eye, and it moves all the time, delivering energy to us. And here it is. I mean, if you want kind of a nail in the coffin right there it is, folks. Going once again back to Lucifer and Jesus and lutetium and God. God being 174. Remember that. God is 174. And Iris is 174. There it is. God is 71, folks. Right there. You can't miss it now. God is 71. Iris is 174, which is the 71st element. So are we just God in human form? That's what the Vedas say. All mankind are incarnations of God. All of us. All of us. And we're all playing out our parts. That's why like pointing the finger and saying it's their fault. Folks, they're just doing their jobs. You don't have to like it. But I mean, it's clear. I mean, Iris in the Greek original 59, game of life, the Bible, right? Tied to duality. So we're all playing out down here. We're all a bag of bones with this calcium and duality here. And then duality through the primes, 310. And 310 is not a prime number. It's a composite number. So we want to look at that. 310, we'll do it on the fly. Here we go. 310. It's a composite number. So we have two ways to go with this. And I hope this helps you with your decoding, folks. Because we're at the tail end of this decode. If you get a composite number and you're like, okay, what number is it attached to? What prime number is it attached to? It can go either way. If you go backwards, it's going to be attached to the 307th prime number. 307 is the 63rd prime number. But if you go forwards into the 311, you're going to get the 64th prime number. And what is 64? It's the boss, remember? Jefe. Right here. 64 is the boss. You see? The boss. In Spanish. Right there, 311. And we found it from duality. So this is clear to me now. Without any exception. At this current stage of decoding for me personally, that mankind's being used. Period. We just got to have fun with it. People, they they get angry because of that. Like I say it very harsh and raw, but you got to have it. I'm having a great time in my life. I get to. I was given that code. If you were given a good code, why would you want to be all stressed out and depressed and anxiety? And if you can live out a good life, why not? Enjoy it. Go be service to others. Be a good person. Stop blaming people for what they're doing. You know? I mean, going back to this anti-monos through the Greek. Remember, I'm going to go back up here. Here it is, anti-monos, found from the antimony, the implant, I feel like, in your brain. Found from the xenon here. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. From the demiurge. The anti-monos. From the Greek now. It's a 125. It's a permutation of xenon, the 251. So xenon, one of the stable isotopes, is 125. What is xenon? Again, it's the stranger. The stranger, that's what it means, stranger. Xenon means stranger. This is anti-monos from antimony, which is right here, which is tied to xenon through the primes. Just got to follow the track and just go with this, folks, and just practice it and use alchemy tied to the original spellings of these words and convert them into these other ciphers, and to kind of, finish up this presentation here. I got a few more slides. Thanks for sticking with me. Is this just the planet that runs it all? The House of Abraxas. Zeus is 54. Xenon is 54. In the original spelling now. Because you can go Jupiter. It's going to give you a deal. That's the Roman spelling of it. That's what came first, Zeus or Jupiter? Well, Zeus came first. So it's closer to the origination of where it came from. It's a 54. And there it is. 251, 54th prime number. What is this right here? A permutation of the 251. So this has a lot of merit right here. So is the stranger in your head, is it just Jupiter transmitting a broadcast down into your brain? The little voice in your head, is that just Jupiter broadcasting to you? I think Saturn has a lot to do with it as well. So it's father and son. This is the son. The father is going to be Saturn. I think it's the father and the son duo myself. But I mean, Jupiter being the biggest planet, that's not an accident. What's the largest religion? Christianity. What does Christianity worship? Jesus. That's a no-brainer, folks. And I think that's a hypnotic trance. Not denying that there was a guy named Christ. You are the Christ. But then, you end up with Pluto, the god of the underworld, which was tied to the demiurge. And remember, Jupiter and Hades, Zeus and Hades, are partners, along with Poseidon. And, here's the original spelling of Hades, not Pluto now. Hades is a 43. And it's a prime number tied to time. And remember, pi is 3.14. So this is right at the very beginning of pi, Hades is. It's kind of important. When you say Pluto through the primes, 281. 281 is a prime number. 60th, tied to neodymium, tied to the 1, Neo. So Neo's supposed to be the good guy. And this plutonium, man. So this is a big deal right here. Tied to Shiva. Pluto's the god of destruction. Shiva's the god of destruction. And neodymium's going to be tied to the 144,000 because of the weight it has. What about saying that through the Greek, it's a 128. It's just a permutation of the 281 there. This is through the Greek for Pluto. And then when you do the Hades and you go all the way down, it's 16, and, bring in the Chaldean, you get hell. And what is Hades? The underworld. What is hell? The underworld. Well, you're in it. I mean, is there something beyond what we're standing on? I don't know. Never been there. But it just seems that very plausible that Pluto runs this world, the god of destruction, and that's why it destroys everything. That's why you have all this sinning going on. That's its job. Its job is to push things into existence in those circumstances. And it's a duo here. I feel like it's a duo. It's a game, folks. This is a game that we're playing out right here. All this stuff. And so to finish up this presentation, just to kind of go out with some fun here, just to show you how heavily scripted this reality is, and sure, you can become conscious of it. You're doing that right now. But I'm bringing some Disney into this. And this character called Pluto. Of course, keep in mind, Pluto's a dog. And, dog is the G-O-D spelled backwards. Okay? So take that into consideration. It's a dog. And the first appearance, before it ever made its way on the film scene, cartoons, it was in the 1930 cartoon. The precursor to Pluto was called the Chain Gang, from the research that I've done. And I'll leave the link to the original cartoon. I watched it. It's kind of cute. But I want to just show all of you, because this is my last slide, I just want to show all of you what this means right here, the Chain Gang. So here's the cartoon right here, and they're in prison, okay? So I want you to really think with logic and discernment, everything that I've shown, along with all my prison planets and everything else, and what this represents. They're in prison. It's called the Chain Gang. When Pluto was first brought onto the scene. And you could decode this. It was the 21st Mickey Mouse short to be produced. 21st, you go to the tarot. What's the 21st card in the tarot? It's the World card. Prison planet. Okay? Prison planet. 21st episode. And there were 7 characters in this short. They're all chained together. There they are, all of them chained together. What does the 7 represent? The human being experience. The 7 chakras tied to the planets. But what was really interesting, besides them being in prison, was down here at the very end. At the very end, what I showed you, Mickey starts singing this song. We're here because we're here. Right here. So if I copy that, I already got it in there. It's a 95 in the Chaldean. You know what the 95 is? It's the am, the I am. You see? This is what this tells all of us in the Chaldean, but I know this is about the primes. So what is the 708? We go to the primes, we type that in. We're here because we're here. We're in prison because we're in prison. It's a composite number. So we go one prime up or one prime down. We go to the prime up, as I've been showing. And what number is it? It's gold. It's 709. And it's not just any number. It's the 127th prime number. And what is 127 on the periodic table? Right here. It's this element called tellurium. It's the prison planet, folks. You see, there are no accidents. This is all part of the script. This is from 1930. Keep in mind that 30 is tied to the demiurge. This is all about being in prison. And we're here because we're here. And the numerology for the primes is 708. 708 is a composite, perhaps being ruled over by the 709 and the 127th prime number. You can go to the 701, the previous, you're going to get 126. What is 126? These numbers are going to bleed. It's the I, the I am that I am. So these numbers bleed, 53 and 54. I've been saying this. Some of you are catching on. But make no mistake about it, folks. This is telling all of us, in my opinion, Columbia Pictures, you're in prison. And you're here because you're supposed to be here. You're inside of a script. And when you look at this, this dog right here, we are the dogs. Dog is man's best friend. I mean, you put a leash on your dog. What do you think you don't have a leash on? I know you don't have a leash on, but are we being controlled over, folks? I think so. And I think this whole presentation exactly supported what I've been saying now for so long, that mankind is being used. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that's all I got, man. I know this is quite a long one. Thanks for paying attention. I hope that you learned something, especially how to use composite numbers and turn them into primes and how to convert words and to some of these other numerology ciphers. But anyway, I'm going to start using the primes more and more. Probably do some more exclusively just using the primes. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for today. My name is Logan. Until next time, we will see you later.